The new millennium brought an end to many things, to Black Isle, to New World computing, to good map design, but we'll focus on just the first one today. Usually in its death throes, a company will try and churn out at least one last remnant of its greatness, one that usually won't be that good. And that was the case of Lionheart Legacy of the Crusader. This was not a game made directly by Black Isle, it was made by Reflexive Software, but it was under the direction of Black Isle. Well, it was under the direction of Interplay, which at that point was mostly Titus, you know, the company with the cat that everyone hates. But it's still what you would call a Black Isle game, having their logo on the box and their intro and a lot of their sensibilities. Now, Lionheart isn't what you would call a great game. Were you to analyze certain parts of it, it's probably kinda bad. But there's a reason for that. It's a game made in the death throes of a company. It was made with very little in the way of resources. So little that people sometimes worked on it without being paid. At one point the developer actually had to keep the game hostage because they hadn't been paid. And to put things in perspective for those who don't understand, these were people that made games for a living. And if they weren't being paid, they could not make a living and would therefore die. I get the feeling that people tend to glance over this fact every time you hear them complain about video games taking time to be made or costing money. And Lionheart Legacy of the Crusader was eventually made. It was finished, it was launched, and it kinda bombed badly. It did not make a profit, and most critics didn't really like it. And they had reasons not to like it. This game would be probably the closest thing you would get to a mental sucker punch. It leads you into thinking it's something and then isn't. Only it doesn't do it out of malice like most media today does. It did it because there was no money there was no time, there were no resources to actually make it what it should have been. What it is, or what it seemed to be, is Fallout in a fantasy setting, but not in a generic fantasy, oh look there's a dragon setting. It's in a more elaborate alternate history where the world was torn asunder by magic and demons and spirits invaded, and hundreds of years of turmoil later a sort of status quo is established. Where magic is there, it exists, some people use it, some people are hunted down because of it, and things aren't what they seem, usually. It is a splendid concept for a world, and it is very well executed in the game, because it takes people and places and history and events and gives them just that little twist to them, to account for all the magic, for the spirits that inhabit some people's bodies, letting them live for centuries. But it did try to recreate those historical characters well. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, who is accurately portrayed. And this was before Assassin's Creed made the whole alternate history thing be such a big deal. The setting was great, and the story itself, well, it did have some problems from time to time, but it was, well, I wouldn't say unique, but it had certain elements to it that really made it stand out. Some people would call it wacky, but it's just taking its concept, its core concept that the world is filled with spirits and demons and creatures and all sorts of stuff, and takes it to whatever potential it can. I'll try to not give any spoilers also because I don't remember certain details about what happened after Barcelona. Barcelona. You can sort of tell that this part of the game was the one they sort of had the most resources when they were working on it. Barcelona is where the game starts. Well, actually it starts before that. If you play the demo, Barcelona is the end of the demo and you have a road to Barcelona, which isn't in the final version, though I do believe you go back to where you started from via that road that's in the demo. Barcelona is the portion of the game that will make you think, why do people not like this game? Yeah, sure, the combat is kinda strange, it's extremely fast, it's sort of like it's trying to be a Fallout-ish game, but it's kinda Diablo 2 as well, and also why the hell is it this fast? Holy hell, I just died 7 times by the time I finished saying this phrase. Let's handle this first. The combat isn't great. It's quick, even with the option to set it to 70% speed. It's not really that enjoyable, and the game pretty much focuses almost entirely on that after Barcelona. Well, there are a few exceptions. In France, you do get to have more non-combat-ish things to do, but for the most part, you'll go around killing people and things and people things non-stop, which kind of goes against the concept of a Fallout-ish game, because this is a Fallout-ish game having been built on the special system, the one with the statistics that Bethesda now uses for Fallout as well. The special system, as it is implemented even here, lets you play as a non-combat character, or at least a non-direct combat character, because you also have magic in this game. You have spells, not the ones you learn from scrolls, but ones that come from within. You have to invest skill points in them. And in Barcelona, yeah, you can sort of play as a non-combat focused character. You can talk your way out of things. You can sneak past things, because, let me admit, this game actually makes sneaking not a certain way to just not level up ever, because you do get experience if you sneak past things efficiently. You don't get a lot of it, but you do get some experience, which is something very useful to have. You can actually probably farm things by sneaking past them until you don't get any more experience and then killing them, like your average RPG maniac. But in Barcelona, not everything was centered around killing things. You talked to things, you did quests for things, you met, well, not things, people, and things. Sometimes you met things under cathedrals, ancient things, powerful things locked away deep inside. You'd investigate murders, you'd choose a faction to belong to, you'd make your own Lion Brande de Shield if you wanted to be a Templar. You'd go around adventuring with Cortez, you'd try to not get Galileo burned at a stake, you'd sometimes maybe run into William Shakespeare and do stuff with him. You'd do a lot of things in Barcelona. There were a lot of quests there. Quests that were kind of good. Maybe not the best quests ever made in RPGs, but they were kind of good. But that sort of takes a back seat into it becoming Diablo, a not very good Diablo, and all the magic, all the goodwill, all that pleasure of exploring, of talking, fades away. It's just replaced by a constant stream of kicking people in the face, because being a Fallout-ish game, you could invest in unarmed combat. Not that many people did. You had swords, you had magic. You wanna go punch a demon in the face? Well, you must be the ancestor of the Doom guy or something then. Lionheart Legacy of the Crusader is without a doubt a troubled game. It had great artwork, like the graphics look amazing even today. The loading screens looked as amazing, probably even more so than in other Black Isle games. And the music, it's fantastic. It sounds so not fantasy. It sounds like Spanish music. You know, the one with the mandolins, or what those guitar things were called. It had atmosphere to it. I dare say it had a sort of unique stylization. It stood out in a time when you probably didn't know that something needed to stand out, because we're still at a point where not everything became just the same thing in terms of style, in terms of ideas, locations, aesthetics. It just stands out. I'd say go try and play it. It's on GOG for under €6, but you probably won't enjoy most of it. If you stop playing after Barcelona, yeah, I wouldn't blame you. It's all downhill from there. It's not perfect in Barcelona either, but it is promising, it is inspiring, it is good. I just wish I had more time to do actual captures from it instead of just running around the city and doing bupkis. Well, that would be it for this short take on the troubled legacy of the Crusader, Lionheart. If you want to know more about it, I suggest you go check out the RPG Codex interview that was made with the co-producer of the game. It sheds a lot of light on what went wrong. Mostly, there was no money. Thankfully, the studio that made it, Reflexive Software, didn't go bust, because they made, at about the same time, they made a smaller game, a much smaller game called Ricochet, which was certainly more profitable than Lionheart. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.